Okay, so my name is paula.almiron. I'm the Partnership and Funding Manager at EIT Food West. Today we have a session on Mission 2, that's Net Zero Food System. I am part of a team that is responsible for the success of our partners and participants and their projects, the projects that they have at EIT Food. We are happy to have today partners from all the European regions and some startups. So we're going to start today with the agenda. We will be delivering the session in 5 different stages. We will have at the beginning some welcome and updates from EIT Food. Then Juan Ignacio Zaffora, the regional startup manager from the South region, will provide a presentation about a new program that is called Team Up. After that, Sarah Meyer will provide a presentation on Grow New York, a food and agriculture business competition. And then we have 2 startups that are coming today. One is Green Code, and we will have Colin Higgs, that's the CEO of this company, and also Altura Farms with Sebastian Linares. Feel free to ask any questions as we go along. You can drop messages, or then after each presentation, we can have a small discussion. So today, we're going to talk about net zero food systems. That's one of our missions, but in the next days, in the next sessions, we are going to work on 3 other missions. In June, we will work on reducing risk for a fair and resilient food system. And then in July, healthier life through food. That's mission 1. And finally, we're going to continue again with the second mission, that is a net zero food system. And it's also the topic that we're going to discuss today. Briefly, for the ones that don't know much about EIT Food, we are the largest and most dynamic food innovation community. We focus on innovation to build a food system that produces healthy and sustainable food for all. We are supported by EIT, that's the European Institute of Technology and Innovation, and we concentrate on 3 main areas. We invest in projects, organizations, and entrepreneurs that share our goals. We unlock innovation potential in businesses and universities. That's why Juan Ignacio is coming today to talk about Team Up, but we also connect with external organizations that can also support the innovative and entrepreneurial sector that we have in Europe. Most importantly, we put consumers and citizens at the heart of our work. And then when I will explain 4 of our major areas, you will see how we engage with the general public. Let me admit a couple of more attendees. So just one moment. So this is our community. As you may see here in the slide, we have industry partners, but also smaller organizations and startups too. And of course, the academic sector and the research sector is included. We work in 3 missions. These are the ones that we mentioned before. And today, as we discussed at the beginning, we are going to work on net zero food systems. These are the 2 startups that are, this is the space in which the 2 startups that are going to present today work in. So what do we mean with net zero food systems as a mission? So we will enable with this mission the transition to a net zero food system, measuring and quantifying the change through reduced CO2 equivalent emissions. We will do this by tackling harmful system hotspots, reducing the footprint of protein through diversification, and creating new markets for food waste. We have 3 medium-term targets to maximize impact. The first one is to establish regenerative agriculture as a commercially viable choice in key value chains. The second one is to reduce food loss and food waste. And the third one is to create a retail food environment with growth value in a circular food economy. Our activities and our 4 verticals are education, innovation, entrepreneurship, and public engagement. So in the education pillar, we have courses that are for the general public, but also PhD courses and also master's studies. And we have recently diversified our proposal, including trainings for the food industry, but any external organization that needs to upskill their workforce. Also, we have the innovation space where we have a flagship program that is called the Open Innovation Call that runs yearly, and it's having some modifications recently. But it's very important, and when it's open, we are going to announce that also here at the webinar. And then we have the entrepreneurship space that is quite connected with what we do here. We have 3 different programs. Seedbed, that is for startups that are just at the initial initial part of their path. Normally, we engage with researchers, scientists that have an idea that can be landed to market, but they might not have the skills to be an entrepreneur, or don't know how to, they don't know many things about that space, and we can provide that mentorship and the resources that they might need to start constructing their companies. And then we have the Food Accelerator Network, that's the second program that we have, and the Rising Food Stars. In the public engagement space, we develop some proof of concepts, also high quality content in platforms as Instagram with Food Unfolded, and recently we have launched a website for Food Unfolded too, and there are more activities in that space. So if you would like to get in touch, these are my details, and after this webinar, I will provide some information about the companies that are going to present today, but also information about the programs that are also going to be introduced. So Juan, if you would like to take the floor.
Yes. Cool. Thank you very much, Paula. Thank you for that overview of EIT Food as well, because I have that in my presentation as well, so I'm avoiding those slides. So please let me know if you can see my screen now.
Perfect.
There you go. It's then we're looking at full screen, right? Good. So I'm going to introduce you Team Up. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm at the office and I couldn't get the space, and we're in the middle of a networking event at the office. So it's a lot of people talking. I'm sorry for that. Please ask me if you have any doubt, or you're not able to listen to what I'm saying at the precise moment. Team Up, actually, it's a program focused on building the teams that will create the startups of the future. We call it as a team builder, as a venture builder program, where we are able to get together researchers that have a technology with people that have expertise in business that are wanting to join a new venture. That's the main concept of it. And we realized that actually in Eastern and Southern Europe, there's this worrying gap between the technologies that are being developed at research centers and universities and the number of those technologies that actually reach the market. So we try to fill that gap by creating stronger teams from the very beginning of the projects of the startup path. So this is a program that is trying to actually build that bridge between these technologies and trying to provide a business or a market orientation from earlier than the current situation is. We want to match brilliant technologies with experienced business professionals to build up to 15 successful startups from Southern and Eastern Europe. This is a program that is using a risk budget for all of you that knows the Regional Innovation Scheme of EIT In Europe, it's only available for southern and eastern countries. For more information about the specific countries, please go to EIT Food. I can share the link later for that. But we want to build 15 successful startups out of this program, and we do this, of course, under the 3 missions that we are guiding all of our initiatives, but also maintaining the traditional 6 EIT Food focus, which are alternative proteins, sustainable aquaculture, targeted nutrition, circular food systems, digital traceability, and sustainable agriculture. Yeah, it's like one deeper level of analysis that the mission-driven approach is providing. And team up, we call it a startup builder. Also, you might know the venture building concept is pretty much the same. We have currently the application going on. The application process is going on until this Friday, but we may be able to extend it until Friday 9 of June, right? And we have here 2 types of applicants. On one side, we have individuals or engineers or actually founders of startups that have a technology. We call them the tech co-founders. And these co-founders, they discover the need of open the space in the team for somebody with a business background that help them to design the company with the business expertise from the very beginning. And on the other hand, we have business professionals, people that are coming from consultancy backgrounds for the big companies in the food sector or in the agri-food sector, or previous entrepreneurs, former successful or not so successful entrepreneurs, people that they have this entrepreneurial ability and they are willing to work in uncertainty and they are willing to join a new startup that are applying as well. And during June and July, we matchmake these 2 profiles. We have an entire month when these people is working together to try to find a proper match to build the startup. And out of them, we select 15 newly created teams, depending on the technology, depending on the strength of the team, of the possibility of the market, etc. And we provide 6 months. We provide 4 months of exploration. This exploration means that we support them on exploring and creating tension in their teams, and we ask them to do some activities related to the project that can create some tension to see if they can actually work together. And what we found out is that in those activities, either the teams are broken and then the match was not so good, or either the strength of the team is very solid and we're able to create very good teams from the beginning, right? And this has been very successful. And then we have the graduation phase where we show the success cases and we actually are able to give them some prizes. So during the exploration phase, the 15 teams receive a monthly stipend of €2,000 just to dedicate valuable time on the project. So this is not just a side project for all of them, but they can dedicate some time. And on the graduation phase, we give them up to €40,000 to the winner teams. We have 4 prizes. The first one is 40,000. The second one is 25,000. The third one is 15,000, and the fourth is 10,000. And with this, we want to help to support the funding of the early stage startups. We know that this is a field where there are not a lot of early stage funding, and we want to help them to have some funds for moving on. This is the tech co-founders, the profile that we are looking for. These people that have a technology that can transform the food system. They have, of course, one in the focus areas, and they are seeing the needs of have some new talent on the team to commercialize it or to help to reach the market. And they are open to find a co-founder or a business developer or a CEO or a CMO, whatever they need. They are willing to take this into the startup. On the other side, we are also looking for business co-founders. That's how we call them for a marketing point of view. That it's people that I explained before, that they have a business background, they have expertise, they have networks in the industry that are able to facilitate the growth of the early stage startups from the very beginning. And that's it. I don't know, Paula, if we have time for Q&A now or Q&A later on the session.
Okay, thank you, Juan Ignacio. I think that is a very interesting program. So do we have questions from the audience? I have some questions, but shall we start with your questions? I don't see any hands. Okay, so Juan Ignacio, how long have you been running this program?
Yeah, this is the third edition.
The third edition, and do you have any highlights, any successful stories that come from it? Because it sounds like the perfect situation. You have somebody that has business expertise, and then you have a person that is really good on technology, on the scientific side, and they match just right from the beginning. So it's good. It looks like something that is going to have good results. But do you have good results?
Yeah, definitely. Approximately, as this is the third year, we don't have strong numbers about the continuity of the teams that were from the first year. But for an overview, we have approximately 40% of the teams are still together after joining our program, which is quite high for people that haven't met before, and they are working together to co-found the startups. I'm pretty sure that the co-founders in the room know how difficult it is to find the proper members of the team. And the 8 winners, the 4 winners of each one of the years are companies that are still alive, are still working together, and are still on the market, and they are raising funds. And actually the winner of the first year raised over €1 million up to the date, and was a startup that didn't exist 1.5 years ago. So it was quite successful. And from the business co-founders perspective, we are quite surprised of the quality of the profiles that we are receiving, of the applications that we're receiving. People with background in big 4 consultancies, or like Deloitte, McKinsey, or KPMG, that are willing to leave this corporate sector and join in a startup. Actually, people that is experiencing in the big companies in the agri-food sector, like Meyer, PepsiCo, or others, that they felt that their corporate track is over, and they want also to lead or co-lead a startup, that they are looking to jump into the entrepreneurial sector as well. These kind of profiles are quite another value, because also if they don't find a match, the value that they are adding in every session, the expertise and the networks that they are opening for the actual teams that are creating in the program is very valuable as well. So overall, a lot of learnings, of course, because only 3 years we have a lot of things to improve, but a lot of good highlights as well.
Thank you, Juan Ignacio. So if we don't have more questions, we are going to move to our next speaker, Sarah Meyer. Thank you for coming today. She's part of Grow New York. We are very pleased to have you and to start a different type of content, because we normally are very focused on Europe, but this program is something that could be also of interest to our European audience, because you can apply and it can be complementary to any EIT Food program or any other program that you are part of. So thank you, Sarah. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paula, for the invitation. I'm really glad it worked out. I happen to be in Calgary, Canada, so We originate, and I'm from New York State. This is a New York State program. I'm actually a program associate for the Grow New York team led by Jen Smith. She's the director of ag programs at Cornell University's Center for Regional Economic Advancement. So we work as a team to administer this program on behalf of Cornell University. And thank you again for having us. And I hopefully this is a fit for some of our audience members. So Grow New York is a program, as I mentioned, of Cornell University. It's a global food and ag tech innovation competition for startups to draw in and enhance our agri-food system within New York State. Right now we are in our application phase, so I will detail the eligibility in that maybe there's a fit, or if you also know of a startup that might be a fit to apply to compete for our prize money. For eligibility, we are looking for startups that are scalable and have high growth potential. Typically, they're 3 to 7 years mature. They are incorporated or have an LLC. They oftentimes have at least a trial or some sort of prototype, but a clear path towards commercialization and profitability. If you're meeting 2 of those 4 criteria, you're likely a fit for Grow New York as an applicant. Oftentimes our teams are either no revenue or early revenue as well. So we don't necessarily have thresholds for, years of maturity or revenue, but oftentimes for revenue, it's pre-seed to Series A funding rounds. So the prize money levels for Grow New York competition, again, I should have mentioned this, but this ultimately takes place in November. I will go over the timeline, but this is a competition that culminates in a summit event that takes place in Binghamton, New York in November. There's 3 prize brackets or levels, the top prize being $1 million US. There are 2 $500,000 level prizes and 4 $250,000. The awards are structured in a way that it is an investment between Cornell University and your business. And I will get into the investment agreement a little bit later, but just to explain the structure of the prize award money itself. So the focus area, or I should say the impact area that we are focused on, is the Grow New York region. This is a 22 county region of central New York. It's a pretty big chunk, as you can see by the visual diagram there. It contains the hub or the central agri-food system of New York State. And again, we are looking for startups that are interested in operating here. This competition does not require applicants or finalists to relocate to the Grow New York region or New York State itself. However, we do look at, and the judges are looking at within their criteria, how you can operate or have an operational impact on the Grow New York region specifically. The Grow New York region is definitely has a strong farm community, but also it is the location to many of our major research institutions, one being Cornell University, of which administers this program, but also Rochester Institute of Technology, Syracuse University. It's also home to many industries within the food and ag space, such as Wegmans Grocery, Ledestri Co-Packing, Constellation Brands is a beverage distributor. The region contains many farms in terms of the agricultural industry. It's a leader in apples, peas, cabbage, corn. Our number 1 top 3 ag products are dairy, corn, and hay. But also we are a leader in producing yogurt, cottage cheeses, and sour cream. So I would have you take a close look at our region by investigating a couple of reports that we have on our website. If you go to grow-ny.com, and I'll post it at the last slide, but there are a couple reports that talk about a call for innovation within our New York's agri-food system, as well as a couple research briefs that detail CPG and some of the top agricultural crops in our region. This slide just details again some of the diverse industry partners that are part of our network within the Grow New York team. And as a applicant and hopeful finalist and winning team of the competition, you would have access, facilitated introductions to these partner groups. I've already mentioned Ledestri, Wegmans, and Constellation Brands, but in terms of research, this is definitely a supportive collaboration between the research institutions and the knowledge capital that's within the Grow New York region itself. So in terms of the timeline, I'll walk you through kind of the experience of an applicant. Applications opened in March, but they are concluding in just a couple weeks. So we're hoping that we can get a couple more applicants to consider submitting by June 15th. The application process is not very onerous. We intentionally designed it to be a light lift. Paula included the direct link to the application page. So it was in our email invitation, but you can go on, create an account or register for an account. You can preview the application itself, review the questions, modify your answers, return to it, log on, log off, revise it, work on it as you please, but there's also an opportunity to upload a 2-minute video, but we're just wanting to definitely ensure that it is officially submitted by June 15th. And what happens after that is last year we had an applicant pool of about 390. That applicant pool is narrowed down through early phase judging to 20 finalist teams. Those 20 teams are announced in late August, early September. Those teams are then paired up with a Cornell affiliated mentor, and they experience and work with this mentor for 10 weeks through what we call our business development phase. And that takes you through September and October. And what the mentor is assisting with and supporting the team with are those facilitated introductions to the partners that I mentioned earlier on as necessary. The teams oftentimes have different needs, given that this is an food, beverage, and ag tech competition. So each of the startups have different needs. They are all startups, but some of them are in a different phase of their development. So sometimes the mentor is assisting with their commercialization plan, their financial plan or business plan, but also helping them familiarize the team with the region itself. So what happens in week 7 or 8, which is mid-October, is the teams are invited to visit the region, and we offer a stipend to afford to do that. They visit the region for 2 to 3 days, again, making face-to-face interactions with those industry leaders, those that they've been introduced to virtually, but want to either maybe tour a facility or visit a farm, or investigate real estate for future facilities, opportunities. But really the teams are gaining that sense of place of the Grow New York region and New York itself, and really getting more of a lay of the land and the industry that they could foresee operating within. By the end of October, the trips are concluded, and the mentor and the teams are working together on finessing their pitch deck that they ultimately present in November. At that pitch competition, there's a panel of judges that listen to all 20 finalist pitches and select the 7 winning teams. Again, there's $1 million, 2 $500, and 4 $250,000 prize levels. So 7 winning teams are selected out of the 20 finalists. And what the the judges are looking for in terms of criteria is that operational impact within the Grow New York region. That can look differently, as I mentioned, but it can mean establishing a manufacturing facility or an R&D facility, possibly renting a lab, or you could even build a facility, I suppose, with prize money. But there are location requirements to the competition, but not that you relocate your headquarters, just have operations, possibly job creation, contracts with farms, co-packers, manufacturers, distributors, capital investments in equipment. So there are definitely creative ways in which a team can operate within the Grow New York region successfully while remaining abroad as their headquarters. What happens after winning is that the teams sign an award agreement, which is an agreement stating the milestones you commit to delivering over the course of 12 months of receiving the award. Those milestones are developed by the startup themselves in their pitch presentation. They are proposing what they are striving to accomplish using the prize money. The other agreement is the investment agreement, and the teams have an option between a safe or a warrant arrangement. And if they chose the warrant arrangement, again, this is an agreement structured in that it's Cornell's investment in your business in terms of equity. So it's a 3% stake in your business at the $1 million winning team level and 2% at the $500,000 and $250,000 level winning award. Once those two agreements are signed, the teams receive an advance in their award money in hopes that it's to create some momentum to finish those remaining milestones. Usually there's 3 or 4 milestones to accomplish over the course of the year of winning. And after winning, after accomplishing all of the milestones, you have then received all of your award money. Of course, we hope that you continue to build and grow within the Grow New York region, but you're not obligated to do that. And this is our 5th year offering this competition. And I'm going to advance to my final slide in hopes that if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But the website is there, grow-ny.com, to look into the application registering for an account. You can also email questions directly to myself and my colleagues at grow-ny@cornell.edu. If you'd like a one-on-one to have a one-on-one meeting with me, reach out via that email. We also have info sessions, a few more coming up that you're able to visit or log into. It's more or less a webinar. We actually have one today at 4 o'clock Eastern time. But also ultimately just remember, if you are a startup or know of a startup that's possibly a fit for Grow New York, the deadline is June 15th. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, we have questions. I think that it was a brilliant presentation. So we have a question from Michelle Lorenzo. So he asks, the competition, he says, the competition sounds quite interesting. How much of the 10 weeks mentoring will be done online, or will it be predominantly in person?
No, it's a global competition. So we realize that there are applicants from all over the world. And so the business development phase, that 10-week accelerator type program, is held virtually, other than the 2 to 3 day trip that we invite you to the region. And again, we offer a stipend to do that. The summit itself that takes place in November is in person. So we offer a stipend to attend that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. Do we have more questions from the audience? Okay, so I think it's a really interesting opportunity, and also to work with the other continent it's a way of also growing as a professional. I'm at the moment working with the US in a specific project regarding nutrition, and it's a different way of working. So it just enriches your multiculturality. So I think it's very positive. So now we are going to continue with our startups. So please, Colin, if you would like to start with your presentation.
Sorry, can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, just make sure I got everything ready and then I will start in a second. Whoops. Okay. Okay, I will begin now. So my name is Colin Higgs. I'm from a new startup. We're about 2 years old, called Kode, based in the UK. What we provide are new technology devices with software to try and reduce food waste in real time in commercial kitchen practices. And it is our mission to aim for zero waste of resources in every commercial kitchen. Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to start with what is the problem overall that we're looking at. And we're looking at the global food waste issue that is prevalent in our world currently. It costs us approximately over £1 trillion per annum in terms of the loss that's estimated, in terms of not only your food resources, but also your labor costs as well. The other thing is that there is no strict mandate in the world globally on how we are going to reduce the food waste issue, both at home and also in commercial practice as well. There's a lot of inaction. The other thing to note are the climate extremes that we're currently facing all around Europe and perhaps in the Southern Hemisphere as well. We experience a lot of flash floods, drought periods, and extreme storms, which are globally experienced by everyone. And moreover, the food waste issue contributes between 8 and 10% of all greenhouse emissions of the total as well. Sorry, I've got to move my screen. What we don't see is that the tipping points have been reached in terms of what the world is facing in terms of the climate tipping points have been reached. And the summary...
Apologies, Colin. We can see also your desktop. So I don't know if that's your intention, but just, because of privacy matters.
Yeah, it's just, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
No, it's just that I see, for some reason, I'm seeing myself on screen as well, and I can't see the slides, but it doesn't matter about my desktop. Honestly, it's fine. It's fine. I can't see my slides. Sorry. I'm seeing everyone's face, but not my slides. I apologize. So getting back to the tipping points, what I was trying to facilitate was the point that globally, what we don't see, we obviously see the main climate activities of the flash floods and the storms and those kind of things, but what we don't see are the tipping points that will never resurface again for the next 1,000 years on our planet. And those are the loss of ice sheets in the Antarctic, which are caused by the climate activities, the warmer seas, which are obviously due to of the CO2 emissions that are trapping the infrared radiation, and the loss of biodiversity that's due to the temperatures rising both on the sea and in the land. And the other thing that we probably do see, but we're not fully aware of, is that the world is experiencing a natural fresh water scarcity as well. And the other thing that we're perhaps not aware of is that due to the melting of the ice in the Antarctic, we're experiencing 4 times the emissions of CO2 from the permafrost, which is melting as well. And what's happening there is that you're getting methane emissions. Sorry. So what other issues are we currently facing on our planet? We're facing, due to climate change, we're facing a lot of social issues. Those include hunger on a massive scale of over 1 billion people who are undernourished currently on our planet. we're also experiencing different issues where if we've got huge storms and displacement due to flooding, people obviously need shelter. And as I've said in the previous slide, we're also experiencing scarcity of fresh water due to the extremes in the weather patterns that we currently have. And if we sum all that up and the previous slide, I would like to say that we're at the point where the cost of inaction is actually greater than action now. So we've come to the point where we need to act seriously on the issues that we're currently facing. And by 2030, food waste has been predicted to increase by 30% to a value of 2 billion tons globally. And that will affect, excuse me, and that will affect over 2.5 billion people who are predicted to be undernourished by 2030 as well. And what I'd like to repeat again is that we need to realize anytime we are putting carbon into our air, it could affect someone's life. And anytime we're wasting food, someone else could possibly lose their life as well. However, our global challenges are not really tech related. They are to a certain degree, but the ones and the things that we can do now are not really tech related. But basically, they are a human behavior issue. Our behaviors are responsible for 75% of all global greenhouse emissions. And without us driving behavior change, new climate innovation will be quite redundant. And why do I say that? I say that because we need to know what we're wasting and how we can change that behavior to enact on it. So we need awareness of the problem, and we also need the ability to change as well. And we lack the research on behavior change that will actually drive a human policy to reduce their food waste as well. And what the world needs now are partnerships to solve the climate crisis, which includes everyone here. And Green Code creates these types of partnerships with new tech and also behavior research in trying to address how we can stimulate people to change their behavior and reduce their emissions. The barriers that we are facing in terms of the industry that I'm working in is that production kitchens are not changing their waste behavior at all. And they haven't been doing anything realistically for the last 70 years. Obviously, we need regulation to regulate the practices of commercial companies that are dealing with food and also the way that they actually reduce that food. However, as I just stated on the previous slide, we probably still have waste due to the fact that they're not aware of how they can accurately change their waste and where that waste is coming from. And that's where we fit in, because we are creating or have created a system solution whereby we not only give people the technology to monitor the issues of their waste, and it tells them what is wasted and why it's wasted. We also enact on their self-governance behavior change to introduce the behavior in real time in these commercial practices to act on their waste and reduce that waste, and obviously reduce the CO2 emissions on that waste as well. Our value proposition is that we are using new technology, which is monitoring the waste. We tell them what is wasted, and we also tell them why it is wasted. We give them the ability to act on the data that we give them. It's a behavior change system, which also enables the education and training of people who work with us. We not only give them the dashboards that tell them what is being wasted, but we also try to nudge them with education and training as to we can tell them what to do to reduce that waste as well. We are trying to enable the reduction of resources in commercial kitchens and also the food waste. And we have already established that we can affect between 30 and 70% of a kitchen's waste if they use our tools properly. We also communicate not only to the businesses, the CO2 that the reduction of the CO2 that they're actually emitting, but they can also share that with their customer-facing customers and tell them what they're doing to enact on food waste and making their business as green as possible. We are also saving them money with their customers by having them reduce the waste. It's obviously they're obviously becoming more efficient and more cost effective as a business. Effectively, we are creating a smart grid for humans. We've all heard of smart grids for energy, whereby in real time, you'll get information passed between the supplier and also the person that's using your utilities to enable the efficient use of a resource. And we're effectively doing that with commercial kitchens. We can give them the monitoring tools so they know when and how their food is wasted. And we also give them a new way of speaking to a smart speaker so that they can introduce the AI information of why did they put that waste in the bin and where did it come from? So that's what we're trying to do. If we put those two physical tools together, we can introduce a behavior change system that enables and educates people on what is wasted and why. And we use AI on the other data that we're given to help us try and tell the customers perhaps this menu or item you served isn't liked by your customers, or there's a certain age group or a certain type of customer that doesn't want a certain dish, and we can give that granular information to them as well. We obviously are, as I said, we're creating a smart grid for humans, and our roadmap is using an automatic food waste monitoring system, which you can see the graphic on the bottom, plus an AI granular food waste monitoring system that people can speak with. And then that gets sent to a cloud system whereby people are actually educated on what they can do to reduce their food waste on a weekly basis. In terms of the potential impact we're looking at in Europe, over 220 million tons of CO2 are produced annually on food waste. And the EEC has already said that 70% of this food waste can be reduced by just changing their behavior. If we were to do that, we'll be looking at leading the minimization of our waste and increasing the profits as well, and increasing the turnover of the business. We will be adding to the knowledge of that, adding to the knowledge of behavior science on the use of behavior change to reduce CO2 emissions, which we desperately need as well, because as I said before, over 73% of our GHG emissions are caused by our own behavior. What we really do need is getting the hard data on how different demographics, gender, age, and events can affect food waste on a commercial level. And that's something that we provide as well. In terms of the market opportunity, globally, the market is worth over £1 billion. And in terms of our own beachhead market, we're looking to try and work with large catering corporations who can use our devices in every single outlet that they're actually making food on a commercial level. In terms of the business model, we are incorporating a B2B SaaS model in which we are offering free trials of our physical hard equipment and also the software that accompanies with it. And then afterwards, we will sell our products in a one-off payment. And then we would ask for a dashboard subscription fee which would encompass the behavior change education software and also the database software of what they're wasting and how they're wasting their resources. The difference between us and our competition are primarily two factors on that graph. And what we were hoping to do is once, and if we are successful in doing and working in this way, we would explore the expansion of our devices, not only to food, but also to energy and water in real time. And we would do the same thing using the similar kinds of software so that they could monitor all of their resources in the kitchen as well. The other thing that makes us very different to our commercial competition is that we're the only one that's thinking about behavior change software. We not only give them the metrics of telling them what they're wasting and when, we also give them the education of how they can actually act on that waste. And we would train them into doing that and making that a physical action so that they can actually reduce their waste as well. In terms of what we're asking, I'm here today to try and seek further investment and also a trialing partner. We're looking for funding for a three-year trial of research with products and services, and a long-term partner who shares our vision and mission of a world in which food waste is reduced to its minimum as possible. And lastly, I'd like to leave you with an animation, if I may, which is going to illustrate the problem that we're facing. But as I said to you on the first slide, by 2030, food waste will contribute over 2 billion tons of food waste. That is equivalent to over 70 to 90 tons of CO2 per second. And that is 40 times the scale of New York emissions currently, or what they were a few years ago. And what I like to do now is play this animation. And what you'll see in this animation are spheres of CO2 emitted. Each sphere is 1 ton of CO2. Sorry, I'll just say that again. Each sphere that you'll see on the screen is a ton of CO2 emitted in New York. So in New York, every second, 2 tons of CO2 are emitted from that area. And what I've just said is that the food waste problem in 2030 is 40 times the scale of what you're going to see here. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. I think it's very graphic and also hard to see. I don't know if you find it a little bit disturbing to see that. It's hard to see.
Okay, I beg your pardon. But
no, it's fine. It's fine. So perhaps we can go to our questions. So do we have questions from the audience? So here we have a question from Sebastian. So he's saying that the presentation was very interesting, and well, I back him on that one. So do you already have the technology on the market? I think that yes, but you can answer that, Colin.
Yeah, I'd say we haven't got enough money to finish off the smart speaker, but the basic premise and introduction of the devices was introduced into 5 different piloting partners. Yeah.
Okay, do we have more questions? I have one question, but you can go alone. Okay, so I will share one of the questions that I have. So when you go to small restaurants, not large large chains, so do you experience any let's say obstacles with them, and any counter arguments that well, not willingness of use this type of technologies? What are their thoughts? Because well, I have my assumptions, but I would like to check that with you.
I'd say if you asked any chef in a commercial kitchen, I'd say their answer would be the same. I would say they don't want any waste in their kitchens, but the other thing that I must say as well is that their job is to obviously serve the food. And that's their first task, to serve the food to the customers and obviously make money. What we are asking them to do, and what is the challenge, is not the technology. We've easily supplied them with the technology to do what they need to do. It's the fact that their behavior needs to change, and we need to help construct an education tool so that they can slowly build up this way of working, because it's a new way of working whereby you're looking at food waste from two different areas, and those areas are either from your preparation in the kitchen, but most people we're looking at waste of nearly between 40 and 80% of their waste comes from their actual customers, which they can't actually address. So if they had a tool whereby they could know what were the demographics of what were the causes of this food waste, we believe that they could obviously they could reduce that waste on a certain level. If all the meals were prepaid, if it was an event, they could look at their demographics before and choose a suitable menu that would actually be reducing the waste as well.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a very interesting technology and solution, and the fact that you are let's say collecting information that is qualitative information, and then you're processing that information with AI. It's a really good solution, because you couldn't access to that information intuitively. You would have to run a research piece, a qualitative research piece, and it seems that it's quite cost convenient to have that on site and to collect that information. And also, this could be used in other spaces, for example, in a farm. I don't know how helpful could that be, but you are you can get a lot of information that sometimes when we see studies that talk about behavioral change or even behavior in the space of the food systems, normally the sociodemographics and also the ethnicities of the populations that they are sampling are quite biased. So it's quite difficult to extrapolate those results to the whole population. And I think that this is really interesting from these different perspectives, and you can apply this to other spaces. Okay, so I don't want to take more time. So Sebastian, would you like to start?
Yes. Can you all see my screen?
Yes. So perhaps you should put it on, let's say, presentation mode.
Yeah.
Sebastian, do you speak Spanish?
I do indeed.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here. It's truly an honor. And yeah, it's been great to listen from Colin, from Juan, from Sarah, from yourself, Paula, as well. And I'm going to start just asking a simple question. And is, when do you go to the supermarket, do you actually see where your food comes from? How was it grown? Do you see if the quality of it? Do you see what kind of like farm was the one that grew it? And if you started to do it, you are actually part of a big trend that has been happening for a few years, but it really intensified during COVID. And it happened that during the pandemic, people wanted to see where their food was coming from. They wanted to see that their food was being grown ethically, that it was being grown sustainably. So organic food, the organic produce, the demand actually rose through the COVID times, and this is just an evidence of where the population is going when it comes to consumption of fresh produce. And this is what I'm trying to do, Altura Farms. This is an innovative way of actually doing farming. And as I go along, you're gonna see why we need innovation and why innovation is such a big part of Altura Farms as a business. So we have a couple problems, and one of them is the population. The world's population is expected to grow to nearly 10 billion by 2050, and that's according to the UN. Actually, the number is between 9.7 and 9.8 billion people. And to give it a perspective, when we think over the past 8,000 years, all the food we've grown, well, we're gonna have to actually grow more the next 30 and 40 years. And that's scary by itself. And we need to come up with stuff. We need to come up with solutions. And another big problem that we have is that, well, as population grows, most of it starts living in cities and urbanization comes. And is that more than 2/3 of the population will be living in big cities. So how actually do we come across the fact that, well, there's a supply chain by itself is very complex. As Colin mentioned, waste happens all over the place, from the farmer to the transport, to the shelf, to households. There's waste and waste and waste. And we need to find a way of actually, well, maybe find a way of reducing that waste a bit more. And we also have another problem, which is that agriculture is by far the main driver for deforestation. As population grows and demand grows, well, we need more land to grow food. We need more land to grow crops. And that's where deforestation comes in. But we know that's actually brought many issues in terms of climate change and in terms of loss of biodiversity. There are many problems with this. So we need to come up with a solution. And this is where Altura Farm comes in. And we are in a mission of redesigning our food system. And we do this through many ways, but the main way is innovation. So I think, and we really believe that in order to tackle the food security issue that we are facing, we need to think outside the box. We need to come up with new ideas, innovation, new ideas, new solutions, and we rely heavily on technology to do that. How can technology help us as a society to actually tackle many of these issues, from world population to food waste to deforestation? And another way is decentralization. There's an article from a global leading consultancy firm in the agri-tech space called AgrifoodTech, based in New York. And they share this article saying that, well, the food that you are consuming, it's more and more coming from larger and larger farms. And the smaller farms are actually closing down in terms of prices of fertilizers, land. We've seen the geopolitical issues in Eastern Europe. And Altura Farms tries to tackle that through decentralization. Can we actually bring growing food closer to where it's consumed? Another one is efficiency. How can we actually grow more using less? We only have enough land. We only have enough water. So how can we actually use that to actually do more? And another one is inspiring. And through inspiration, we know that we will not be the only one in the space. In the industry, there's going to be many, many players. And if we can do our bit of inspiring someone else, another entrepreneur, institution, group of people, to actually develop this idea even further, well, be our guest and we'll be there to help. So how do we do that? And this is the term of vertical farming. And vertical farming, for those who haven't heard of, vertical farming is a term that was first brought by an academic from Columbia University called Dixon Depomier. And this professor came with the idea of, well, how can actually New York be more self-sustainable when it comes to food? And they didn't have enough land, but they could use the rooftops of big buildings, big flats, big apartments, and hence the term of vertical farming. And vertical farming is a technology where you grow upwards. Can be through shelving, can be through towers, but you grow crops upwards. And you're gonna see a few pictures at the end of to see how that looks like. But that's using a technology called hydroponics, aeroponics, or aquaponics. And this is basically water. Crops are not grown using soil. We don't use any soil. We grow fully indoors. That means that not only we recycle the water, up to 95% is water compared to traditional farming, but also we don't use any pesticides, nasty herbicides that can actually do a lot of harm into the crop. We grow them as clean as that can be grown. And all that by growing them right in city center, right in cities, using less water and less pesticides. And that also allows us by growing this food in cities, because we can put this technology anywhere and everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter if it's warm, cold, sunny, or dark outside. The same food can grow because it's fully indoors. And this allows you to create a much shorter and simpler supply chain. We've seen through COVID that supply chain, when one disruption occurs, well, the whole economy suffers. So how can we actually make that supply chain less complex and much simpler? By bringing the food closer to where it's consumed. And that allows us to actually reduce the food miles. How far does the food travel from the place where it's grown to the place where it's consumed? And yeah, so vertical farming is part of what people know as controlled environmental agriculture, or CEA. And when you think of polytunnels in Spain, when you think of those high-tech greenhouses in the Netherlands, this is all controlled environmental agriculture. So it's a very big market. And the CEA industry, controlled environmental agriculture, is currently valued at $85 billion, but that's expected to grow with a forecast of 433 billion by 2032. And vertical farming is part of this sector. And this global farming market, the value is expected to reach the $33 billion by 2030, and that's a CAGR, compound annual growth rate of 25.5 from last year. And we've seen many big companies in the industry. We've seen Aero Farms in New Jersey. We've seen Bowery Farming in Pennsylvania. We've seen Plenty in San Francisco. Here in the UK, there's actually a couple of more, such as Growing Underground in London. And there's more and more players, people with a lot of capital. One of the most well-known investors in the industry is actually Jeff Bezos, through his own private venture capital firm. And this explains the demand that there is for food that is grown close to cities, that doesn't have to travel that long, that can stay fresh for longer, which minimizes waste. And also through indoor farming, we can actually play around with light through photobiology and actually increase nutrients, density, and other factors when it comes to plant growth. So a bit of the present of the business. So Altura Farms as itself was founded in March 2022. So just over a year. But for the first 6 months, around 6 months, I've been working mainly on the technology, getting used to it, getting comfortable with it, because one technology changes a lot from another one. And the technology 4 years ago seems prehistoric when you see the new technology. And at the minute, with the technology I have, and the setup I have, and the scale I have, I focus on growing high-value crops to high-end restaurants in the city of Liverpool. And I grow living microgreens. So microgreens is those very niche, kind of almost like herbs that the chef loves to use in dishes. But I also provide all of the exotic culinary herbs, such as wasabi rocket, such as red bean sorrel, to restaurants. But also planning on providing edible flowers. And that's the present of it. I'm in the space of testing assumptions. I'm testing the market, testing what do suppliers like, what do catering companies like, what do even retailers like. So at the minute, that is, I'm in a testing situation with the business. And a bit of myself, I came across the industry, incredibly passionate about it, all the solutions it could bring, how it could face these many issues as a society we're facing. And I was actually in college studying about ethical businesses, and this industry just popped up, and it was very new, very, very, very innovative, a lot of capital being invested in, and I decided to actually, wow, I really want to be involved in this. And that's how it all started. I read books, I read journals, I read articles, and I tested for myself. And this all came across to the place where I am now. And you can follow me on Twitter, and I've shared a few things there on Instagram as Altura Farms. But so far, kind of like what the assumptions have brought is that a really good way of actually taking this forward, Altura Farms, is by 4 main actions. And one is scale through partnerships. And I've been able to actually have a few partners throughout the way, and I'll be able to share them in a bit. And one of those main partners will be property developers, or local authorities, such as councils, looking to invest in green infrastructure, looking to invest in sustainability, and any other like-minded companies. A great example of this is in Chicago. So Gotham Greens is a company that uses controlled environmental agriculture, and they've raised to this date nearly $500 million US. And they do that. They partner, for example, with Method to do this, to create a greenhouse in the city of Chicago. And one other thing is education and training. We've seen a multi-billion industry here. So, but we also don't lack the skill in the workplace. So we something I'm really passionate about is upskilling the workforce, upskilling people to actually be able to do something that just creates so much value. We're talking about farming in a way that is not reliant on seasons. I can grow all seasons, all year round. So it's going to be jobs that work all year round. It's not going to be the usual farming job that works for 9 months and then off you go. We don't need you anymore until next year. And it's just also about increasing the range of varieties that I provide. It's not only about those high value crops. I think that in order to feed the world and feed the population with fresh produce, you have to go even further. So fruit crops, tomatoes, peppers, these varieties that have been grown in greenhouse for a long time. Actually, I can come along and tap in the space as well. And this is a bit of the organization I've been working with. So Greens for Good Farm Urban is a social enterprise that does a lot of engagement in the city of Liverpool, and they actually just received social investment from a firm in London, and they use actually vertical farming to do a lot of that engagement. Meyer Community Training, which is an organization as well, a social organization that has helped me a lot in advice, in legal advice, marketing advice, and mentorship. The Liverpool Food Network, which is a network of many restaurants in the city of Liverpool in the UK. And they've introduced me to a lot of restaurants as well that I've been able to tap in. And one of the main ones have been Red and Blue Restaurants. Is a group of restaurants that they own about 5 high-end restaurants between the city of Manchester and the city of Liverpool. And They're actually the co-founder, Jonathan Poole, their feedback on the produce has been amazing. It's been really giving the confidence of going further. He said himself, like, he never tasted a red bean sorrel, which is a variety that is used a lot in fish, and the coriander as well, something that he's never tasted before. And that's what happens when you control all the environments for a fresh produce to grow as the best it can grow. And finally, Let's Grow, which is a company in Bristol, United Kingdom, and they develop technology for vertical farms, basically, and they've received a few £1 million worth of investment to develop this technology. And through my partnership with Farm Urban, actually, I managed to come across this Let's Grow and tap into the technology. And yeah, thank you for your time of listening. And yeah, any questions you might have, I'm fully open.
Amazing, Sebastian. Thank you very much for your presentation. We have a question from Georgios. Just give me a second. So Georgios is asking, can you tell us whether you do contract farming, and also which kind of vertical farming are you doing, and what is your capacity?
Yeah, great question. So to the latter one, what kind of vertical farming? As I mentioned, you have hydroponics, aeroponics, and aquaponics. So I do hydroponics mainly, but I also have one system of aeroponics. And hydroponics means just water. They grow in water, and aeroponics means that they grow in air. So I just blast them with nutrients. The roots is very techy, but I'm not sure what it means to do contract farming. I'm not sure what that means.
Georgios, you're muted. So
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I mean, if I want a certain product and I say to you, I want so many tons per month, you know, can you do that?
At my scale, as I've said, I am on an assumption level. So I am working with a couple of high-end restaurants in the city of Liverpool, and I work directly with them. There's, but the idea is, yes, get to that level, get to those contracts. And there's some funding I can access in the UK, such as startup loans. But actually, listen to advice. The advice was go as lean as possible, and the idea was test your assumptions, test the market, because it's very new, and the city of Liverpool hasn't been done before in the Northwest. So that's where I'm at now, and getting the feedback. And the feedback has been so far amazing. But I'm trying to come across delivery and varieties and all these kind of things.
What is your current capacity?
My current capacity. So I have two main systems at the moment. I grow about 5 kg of microherbs at the minute a week, which is a lot when it comes to culinary herbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I also have a edible flower wall, and that produces about 40 flowers a week. That also goes to those high-end restaurants.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. I think it's an amazing solution, and the fact that you have found as a possible consumer or client, new developers, I think is very interesting because they can have that technology inside of their buildings. I think that's very innovative, and also, as you were mentioning about the edible flowers, there is a lot of experience and knowledge in the market of flowers and CEI. So we are going back to that a little bit because they started that in that space, and we are now also working in that space, but for eating. So thank you very much for coming today.